Mavuika just dropped and she's going to be sending all your opponents to the afterlife to see her friends from her animated short. As you probably know by now, she can work as an on-field DPS as well as an off-field sub-DPS and support. We'll look at her on-field teams first and then look at her off-field ones. I imagine this team with Farina, Shallonen and Bennett will be her strongest one. For Shallonen's 4P scroll buff, you can try and trigger Crystallize separately with both Pyro and Hydro, but if you can't be bothered, you'll be fine just not thinking about it. Endgame's easy anyway. The team still has plenty of damage in it, and if for whatever reason you haven't managed to get a 4-piece codex for Mavuika, you can give a Marechaussee with you having Farina in the team. It's an easy team to play too. Set everything up, switch in with Mavuika's burst, hold a charge attack and just spin to win. Let's say you don't like the gameplay of Mavuika's charged attack though. You can use her as a normal attacker with either one of Yelan or Xingqiu. It also saves Farina for the other half of your abyss with her being so in demand. The first team with the charge attacks is undeniably stronger than this one though, so this team isn't your meta choice, it's just an option if you prefer the gameplay. It's a nice team for the overworld too, with you having Shallonen, Mavuika and Yelan for traversal. Before we switch to some different supports, because Mavuika does function outside of just Shallonen and Bennett, I wanted to showcase this hypercarry team with your Hydro unit out for Kazuha. People use Arlecchino in a similar way, and you'll be pleased to know it works for Mavuika too. For mobs, Kazuha's grouping helps so you can hit all enemies at once. For bosses, you have 3 different buffers to drive Mavuika's damage up high enough. I don't think this is a ceiling for what Mavuika can do. The first team still feels stronger, but this was a decent team. Arlecchino's mono pyro teams definitely clear content quicker, so that might be reassuring to those concerned Mavuika was just gonna power creep her in every way. Okay, let's get Shallonen and Bennett out of here and get a bit more creative. D is one of my favourite designs in the game, and I put out a video where I showcase an overloaded team with her and Raiden yo-yoing between each other. Swapping Raiden out for Mavuika isn't as strong in my honest opinion, but I still had fun with it. Auroron holding 4-piece scroll and Chevreuse holding 4-piece noblesse gave both Mavuika and Dia plenty of buffs. The extra layer of defense from Dia's mitigation was appreciated too. If you were to swap out Dia for Bennett, I imagine it will be stronger, but I like Dia so I won't be doing that. Maybe an Electro character will come out in the future who could slot in there too. Enough of DPS Mavuika, I pulled her so she can support my teams. One character in desperate need of support is Chaska. On her release, her best team was Auroron, Farina and Bennett. The release of both Mavuika and Citlali gives her a few options though. Citlali is always kicking off with Auroron, so it's fitting that she kicks him out the team. Cryo in for Electro means we can get some melts off, which is appreciated. Citlali as a sustain means we can swap Bennett out for Mavuika for buffs and sub DPS damage. Citlali is also going to buff Pyro and Hydro damage, which benefits all 3 of the damage dealers in this team. There's also resistance to interruption. On top of all this, if you want to, you could give Citlali Thrilling Tales and buff one of Chaska or Mavuika. This was one of my favourite Mavuika teams to be honest, because I like Chaska's gameplay. Stacking the team with Natlan units also gives each character more from their passive. Mavuika gets more fighting spirit for her burst damage and the buff she gives Chaska. Chaska can trigger the extra instance of damage from her passive more often. And Citlali gets more Night Soul points to keep her skill going. Mavuika rides a motorbike, Mualani rides a shark. Makes sense we try them together. I don't know about you, but I don't like swapping my Xiangling's artifacts around a lot. With a needing around 300 energy recharge to get a burst back regularly in Mualani teams, it means I don't run them together and often means I just end up not running Mualani at all. Mavuika changes that, and while I don't think she's a perfect support for Mualani, I do feel like she's the best we have in the game right now, and she's good enough that running her with a Dendro unit keeps a burning aura on enemies for Mualani to vape all her hairs. Having a few Natlan units in the team means Mualani gets more burst damage from a passive too. I like Nahida as the Dendro support for the elemental mastery in the AoE. Emily's an option though if you're willing to put a French character in there. Speaking of Emily, we have his Kniche team. He had a similar thing that Mualani had in that you'd run Xiangling despite it not being perfect just so you could get enough off-field pyro application. Mavuika does that though with a buff to the on-fielder, more damage than Xiangling, and she doesn't need energy for a burst. Kniche's Night Soul consumption will be more than enough to give a burst uptime. Kniche's Natlan passive gives him more skill damage the more teammates trigger Night Soul burst, so having Mavuika in there in place of Dia or Xiangling is a nice benefit. There's also the option to swap out Emily for Farina if you want to. In terms of artifacts, you could stick 4-piece Deepwood on Emily and 4-piece Scroll on Mavuika to drive Kniche's damage higher, maybe try Deepwood on Mavuika, or you could just give Mavuika 4-piece Codex to push her damage higher and forget about Scroll. Either way, this team's leaving your enemies dead where they stand like 2-pack. What, too soon? On the subject of dead homies, Navia has Malus and Silver, so it's no surprise she synergizes with Mavuika too. People used to run Navia, Xiangling, Bennett and Zhongli. Xilonen replaced Zhongli and now Mavuika replaces Xiangling in what feels like only a small upgrade in terms of damage, but definitely a big upgrade in terms of convenience and not needing to rely on energy to get a burst back. Another thing going for Mavuika over Xiangling, and not everyone will benefit from this, but I still felt it was worth a mention, is that Mavuika can hold Wolf's Gravestone. That attack buff is big for Navia, and Xiangling can't hold any weapons that provide a similar team-wide buff. With 5.3 here, they're finally going to be letting Shenhe out of jail, and maybe it's a sign they'll be letting Wriothesley out of the Fortress of Meripede soon too. I hope so, because my friends put me onto Arcane recently, and Vi looked cool as fuck with the big metal fists. Wriothesley's like a Genshin version of that, and with Mavuika in the team, they can have a dump truck competition. I'll be honest, as much as I like his design, I don't use Wriothesley too often. I don't like using Bennett in every other team, and without him, it just feels like I'm dealing no damage. Mavuika's cool for giving Wriothesley another teammate, but we might have to wait on a Bennett replacement here. For those that don't mind running Bennett, you'll be glad to know this team deals some decent damage. I didn't do a whole lot of testing, so maybe Emily will be better than Nahida here, but I wanted some easy elemental mastery and she gives that to us. Mono Hydro is one of my favorite team archetypes in the game. Water's always been one of my favorite elements in video games, and in Genshin it just so happens to be one of the strongest. What does Mavuika bring to this? Well, she can hold 4-piece scroll to give the team 40% Hydro damage bonus and still deal big damage herself. What does the team give to her? Not much, unfortunately. With there not being any other Natlan units for building fighting spirit, she's relying on the team's normal attacks. It is enough for her to pop a burst every rotation, but not enough that she can take it far past the minimum and really push her damage higher. I feel it's a good team though. 4 damage dealers, plenty of healing, enough energy to pop everyone's burst comfortably. Kokomi's actually dealing a good amount of damage with us having 3 units buffing her. If anyone has Kokomi's signature weapon, this is definitely a team worth trying, and if not, she has a good free-to-play option with the Natlan Craftable giving her 32% normal attack damage. Earlier we talked about Mavuika as the on-fielder in a Mono Pyro team and how she performs against Arlecchino. For this team we're trying them together. Is it any good? I found it fun in domains. A lot of the damage is front-loaded, so it feels like it does really well at the start of your run, but then it starts to drop off towards the end of a rotation. I like not having to run Xiangling though, so Mavuika is very welcome here. I definitely wouldn't pull her just to play this team. I put this one in here just because I was curious to see how it would do, and I wanted to share my findings with you. It's worth giving a go if you have everyone in this team, but I wouldn't expect too much from it. For the last team, of course we had to bring Neuvillette out. You already know it's going to be good. Is it as good as the Kazuha variants though? I felt the difference was negligible. In AoE situations, I'd opt for Kazuha. Single target, I'd go with Mavuika. For a score, I'd give Mavuika a 9 out of 10. Her biggest positive is that she's flexible with how many teams she can work in as either a DPS or a support. Her biggest downside is that so much of her kit's built around her value as an on-field DPS rather than leaning more into her potential as an off-field support. Not the end of the world of course, but with there already being so many on-field pyro DPSs is a little frustrating. I'll be dropping a similar guide for Seat Lally, maybe one for Pyro MC if people want it, as well as one for Lanyam when she drops. Subscribe to the channel if you're interested in them, and take it easy.